Assalamu alaikum. How are you all? I hope you would have read about the previous lecture at Holmes, right? And that was political systems and political parties. In today's lecture, we will try to wind up this topic and then move on to the next topic in the next lecture, inshallah. So we were discussing a way forward because we discussed a lot of problems in the Pakistani political system, and then we were discussing a way forward for the political parties and political systems in Pakistan. So another way forward is that now lack of accountability is there, right, by the elected autocratic rulers. This lack of accountability is there, and we have seen it not only during the past decade but during the 90s as well. That lack of accountability and of these rulers is there, and it has become an accepted feature of our national polity, right? This is something very alarming, that they think that they are above law. They are not somehow answerable to the people. They are not answerable to the institution, to the judiciary, but they are kind of above law. You would have seen the famous Memogate scandal and then the Swiss bank scandal in the 2008 to 2013 PPP's government, where the Supreme Court and the institution of the country were consistently asking the Prime Minister to write a letter to the Swiss authorities regarding the wealth of President Asif Ali Zardari. But the Prime Minister refused to do so. The Attorney General even presented arguments in favor of the government, and he did not assist the courts duly. And then what happened was that the Prime Minister was declared disqualified, right, because he was a convicted person and he was given a 32 seconds punishment within the premises of the Supreme Court, right? So then that Prime Minister was removed, and then we saw another Prime Minister, and then but this the whole thing tells us one story, that these elected representatives, they think that they are somehow above the law. They are not answerable to the law, right? Answerable to the state, answerable to the institutions of the state, answerable to the people. They do not consider themselves answerable to any one of them. They think that, okay, people have elected them and now they have every right to do whatever they want to do. But this is not the case. This should not be the case. Then we saw another very unfortunate event in the history of Pakistan, and that was the Panama scandal, in which the courts have ordered an inquiry. Then the JIT was formed and the JIT findings were there, and then during July 2017 the sitting Prime Minister of Pakistan was declared, the then Prime Minister of Pakistan was disqualified from his position. And what he did afterwards was that he resorted to the politics of agitation. He did not accept that decision by the Supreme Court, and he started a mass contact movement with the people, traveled from Islamabad to Lahore via GT Road, right? And mind you that this is the same party, this is the same Prime Minister, the same person basically, who was actually criticizing the previous government for their failure to abide by the law. This is what is happening in Pakistan. Once these politicians, once they are elected, then they consider themselves to be above the law. They think that the law is made by these legislatures for someone else. So this absence of rule of law in the country is basically hampering the growth of a democracy in the country, right? So this has become a regular feature in the politics of Pakistan. This is an accepted norm in the politics of Pakistan, right? So this thing is basically quite detrimental to democracy in Pakistan. Then another thing, the chasm between the poor and the rich has been alarming, has reached to an alarming proportion. This is again, I will elaborate, I will take some time on this one to elaborate that why it is important. I have explained, I might have explained this in one of the previous lectures as well, that for a society to remain stable, basically there are three classes in a society: the upper class, the middle class, and the working class, or the poor class, right? The lower middle class and then the poor class. But this middle class is there to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. Elite is the rich and the poor is the poor, right? So the middle class is kind of a bridge between these elite and these poor. But in Pakistan, and if the middle class is strong, if the middle class is greater in number in the country, then it means that the country is strong, right? But what is happening in Pakistan, that the gap between the rich and the poor, like the elite and the poor class, this gap is widening. This chasm, right? This has reached to an alarming proportion, as I have underlined it over here, which means that the poor is getting poorer and the rich is getting more wealth, and he is at the expense of other classes. So when it happens, then what happens is that instability hit the country as a result of this. When this gap between the rich and the poor is widened, then instability hit the country. And this is happening in Pakistan, that the rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poorer. So when the poor gets poorer, then law and order situation deteriorates in the country, because people resort to crimes in order to make a living, right? To have a good, or have all the facilities, not all the facilities, but the basic necessities, they resort to crimes. So street crimes in a country increase as a result of this phenomena whenever it is happening, because the middle class, which is a balancing force between the rich and the poor, it is nowhere. So that is why there is a complete disconnect between these two classes, the rich and the poor. And the poor class is in larger number, because the middle class, the lower middle class, is also getting poorer. So they are joining with the passage of time with the poor classes. So when they join the poor classes, then you know what happens is that imbalance, instability in the country, it follows afterwards. And why it is happening? That by squandering public funds on dubious projects and levying ever increasing taxes to pay for their extravagant lifestyle, like the extravagant lifestyle of the political elites, right? So it is because of this that they would levy taxes, and these taxes would be increasing with every passing day, and the burden of these taxes, they are passed on to the working class, to the middle class, to the poor class, right? So they pay every basic commodity, every basic necessity of life. The prices of that basic commodity, that basic necessity, goes high. So when these prices go high, then the poor, they are discontented. Then as a result of it, they are discontented, and then they resort to violent means. Then the crimes increase, all kind of social evils, then they prevail in a society, in that particular society, right? If I give you the example of the United States of America, if I give you the example of many European countries, why they are prosperous? Because there is a middle class in that. There is a large middle class, a huge middle class in those countries, and that is why these countries are considered as prosperous countries. It is not because of the rich people living in those countries, but it is because of the middle class in those countries that these countries are prosperous. So it is not the case over here in Pakistan. And from history, we have seen this, that whenever the poor has been taxed, whenever taxes have been levied on the poor, discontent among the society has prevailed afterwards, right? For example, take the example of the French Revolution 1789. What was the main cause of this French Revolution? The main cause was that the poor, the rich were levying taxes on the poor to pay for their extravagant lifestyle, right? Because the earning of the country was not that much to pay for the extravagant lifestyle. So even there was a tax on the salt as well, right? Salt was being taxed as well, and the poor were paying for the lifestyle of the rich people. So then that discontent in the society, it resulted in the discontentment in the society, and a French Revolution, a bloody revolution came, and it was one of the bloodiest revolutions in the history of Europe. So they saw this thing. Now we are on the same trajectory. If we are levying taxes on the poor with the inflation, with the high prices of every basic commodity in the country, then I'm afraid that we are heading towards the same consequences. We will face the same consequences. That is the same destination that other nations in the world have faced during the previous centuries, right? So we will be facing the same kind of thing if that thing is ever happening, and if governments fail to, if the current government or the following government, if they fail to arrest this chasm, this widening chasm, right? If they fail to arrest it on this spot, then we will be facing, I'm afraid, that we will be facing the same kind of situation in Pakistan, God forbid, right? Then rulers have totally demoralized and crippled the tax-paying middle class in the country, right? So when they have crippled this tax-paying middle class in the country, so when they have crippled this tax-paying middle class in the country, this middle class has become part of the poor class, right? It is no more the middle class, and then they are educated as well. So when they are being crippled, they can be the driving force between, the motivating and the driving force between any kind of a violent revolution in the country, right? God forbid. And then because this middle class is the productive segment of any developing democratic society, so when this class is crippled, then this productive segment is crippled. So when the productive segment is crippled, the economy is further hampered, the economy is further hit by this crippling of the middle class. So when the economy is further crippled, now this is a vicious circle, right? You have hit the middle class is now the middle class cannot produce effectively in the country because they were the driving force of the economy as well, they were the engine of the economy as well. So now that engine of the economy is affected badly. When this engine is affected, the economy has been slowed down. When the economy has been slowed down, so the rich again find it difficult to maintain their lifestyle, right? So they levy more taxes. When they levy more taxes, the middle class is again affected more. So when it is affected more, the economy is slowed down more, and when the economy is slowed down more, the earning of the country is decreased, and when the earning of the country is decreased, the elite again face the need to levy more taxes because the taxes were there keeping in view the earning of the country and the deficit between the lifestyle and the earning of the country, and then that deficit was filled by levying more taxes. But the taxes in return slowed down the economy because it affected the middle class. So the economy, the earning decreased again, and the gap and a gap has again been created. So the gap when it is again being created, then again more taxes have been levied. So this is a vicious circle, and something drastic is needed for us, for the governments to do, to take Pakistan out of this vicious circle. And that would only happen when there are some drastic changes in the structure and the functioning of the political parties in Pakistan, right? I'm emphasizing it again and again because political parties, democratic political parties would lead Pakistan to a viable democracy. Otherwise, Pakistan would just be a cosmetic democracy and there would not be viable democracy in the country, right? Okay. Then democracy, another thing is that it is at the grassroots level. Democracy should start at the grassroots level, and nothing should be imposed on the people, because whenever things are imposed, then the real spirit is somehow lost, right? So things should not be imposed on the people. It should start at the grassroots level. For example, if a political leader is creating havoc in the country because the mandate has been violated by the judiciary, right? Then that political leader should also ask himself, his political party, the whole elite should ask themselves that if their mandate has been violated by the Supreme Court, right, then and they are creating havoc in the country because of that decision of the Supreme Court, then why they are not translating democracy in their own actions within the party, right? They should translate their own their democracy within the party. Why they are not doing it, right? So democracy should literally start at the grassroots level. Otherwise, it is not a democracy. Then it will not work. People will not buy these arguments then, right? All political parties cadres should elect their basic mohalla, ward, city, province and national units. Now this is very important. Every political party should have a structure, right? So they should elect this mohalla, this ward and the city and province national units. For example, members of that particular political party who are at the mohalla level should also be elected by the members of the mohalla. The head of the political party at mohalla level should be elected by the members of that particular political party at the mohalla level. Then at the ward level, which is a bit wider level, right? And then at the city level, and then at the province level, and then at the national level. I will explain it in detail in a moment, right? Now these are basically basic units or tiers, right? So tiers of a political party should remain in the charge of these workers who are elected under a system that allows members of the party to express their choices through ballots, right? So basically they should be, the local workers should be in charge of these things. Like these positions, members on these positions should not be nominated. They should be they should not be appointed. They should be elected by the people, by the members of the particular political party on those respective positions, right? So and then these units should elect the city leaders, who in turn form an electoral college for the election of the district, provincial and the national party leaders. So you know, this electoral college is important. This electoral college, and I'm not talking about it at state level, I am talking about at the political parties level, that each and every political party should have this structure within themselves, so that able leadership comes out of those parties, right? Because most of the able minds in the country, they do not find any place for them to express their views, and then as a result the country is deprived of the precious brains. because these brains remain underutilized under these political parties, and these brains are of no use then, right? So as a result of this electoral process, not only the national leadership of the political party would be revolved, would be changed democratically, but the provincial, the city level, the ward and the mohalla level, all leadership of the party would be changed accordingly, right, and judiciously, and it would be then we would be able to say that yes, we have genuine democracy in the country at political parties level as well. Without this system, we would never be able to say that we have a genuine democracy at the party level. And mind you that this is the kind of system which is prevailing in the rest of the developed democracies of the world, right? Democracies in the UK, democracy in the UK, democracy in France, democracy in the United States of America, almost all major democracies in the world, their political parties have got this kind of structured setup with them. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, all we know about a political party is that the leader of this party is this and then, and that's it. We do not know anything else apart from this, right? So this is unfortunate for Pakistan, and if you want to progress and if you want our democracy to proceed further and take us to a better destination, then we need to incorporate, we need to implement this kind of system for our political parties in the country. Otherwise, democracy will not produce good results for us. Then there should also be a constitutional requirement for political parties, right? Whatever is being said in this class, you know, or about the structure of these political parties, a constitutional requirement for these political parties should be there to hold elections at least once in 2 years, or you know, mutually agreed upon like once in 3 years or something like that. But I would say that once in 2 years is more than enough. You know, it is 2 years is a good time, and during those 2 years the leadership would be judged by the workers of the parties, because they all will be actively participating in the political debates, and so this leadership would be judged on the basis of their performance. So for 2 years this leadership should be elected by the workers of that particular political party under the direct supervision of a neutral election commission in Pakistan. So election commission, the job of election commission is not only holding free and fair national general elections, but the job of the election commission of Pakistan should also be to hold internal party elections as well, right? Like it would be the business of election commission of Pakistan to hold free and fair election of Pakistan Muslim League, within Pakistan Muslim League, putting all its leadership through the process of election, you know, making them go through this whole process and then re-elected or, you know, voted out of their positions, and then Pakistan People's Party, and then Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamiat Ulama-e-Islam and MQM, and you just name it, Awami National Party. If election commission, if a constitutional amendment is made in favor of this thing, right, that there should be party elections under election commission every 2 years in Pakistan, all major political parties which want to participate in the general elections should conduct their internal elections regularly after 2 years under the monitoring of election commission of Pakistan, a neutral election commission of Pakistan. And that should be like, for example, if you apply for a tender or something through your company, then they ask you about your external audit report in the last 3 years, or like, let's say last 2 years. So this should be a requirement that their election under independent neutral election commission, the reports of those elections of previous 2 or 3 elections should be attached by a political party if that political party wants to contest in the general election with a symbol, the symbol should only be allowed to those political parties by the Election Commission which would have conducted their internal elections after every 2 years in the, like for example, with continuity for the past, let's say, 6 years or something like that. So initially we can say that not 6 years, but at least one election, internal election before the election in the last 2 years. But then in order to bring continuity into the process, the Election Commission of Pakistan for the next, not from the for the coming election, but for the next election, the Election Commission of Pakistan should be given the task that, okay, it should only allow, or it should only assign symbols to those political parties which would have conducted the internal election with continuity in the last 6, let's say 6 years, right? And it should be then a normal rule for the rest of the general elections to come afterwards, like 2023, and then you can say that 2028 and so on, right? So it should be then a general rule. But for 2023, not for 2018, because 2018 is just around the corner, but for 2023 this can be incorporated. This can be a constitutional amendment can be made by the upcoming government in Pakistan in favor of it, and 2 years, at least 1 or 2 general elections of internal elections of all political parties who want to participate in the 2023 election should be held, and then with continuity. This is just my suggestion, and I don't know how people would take it, but this is just a good suggestion, so I just felt the need to incorporate it over here, that it should be like this, right? Okay, and the Commission should be empowered to disqualify a political party from contesting the national, provincial and the local elections if it does not elect office bearers. This is also very important. If it does not, empowered to disqualify political party if it does not have elected office bearers. So if the political party every political party has office bearers, so the Election Commission should be empowered to disqualify a political party if it thinks that that particular political party doesn't have elected office bearers and they are nominees, kind of nominated by the leadership. So if right down from national level right down to the mohalla level, the 4 tiers which I have explained: ward, city, province and national and mohalla. So from national level right down to the mohalla level, if the office bearers of that political party, if they are not elected, if they are nominees of a leader, then the Election Commission of Pakistan should be empowered to disqualify that political party. And now you can see that if these things happen in Pakistan, then you will see a real change in the country in the coming decade, in a decade or so, because then it will be this will translate into the politics of Pakistan, into the national politics of Pakistan, right? From political parties into the national politics of Pakistan, and then we would not be bothered with either this party is in power or that party is in power. That would mean nothing for the national growth, right? Because the national growth will be all the policies would be on the proper trajectory, because in all political parties able-minded people would be on top, right? Merit would be followed strictly, and able-minded people would be on top of every political party. So when that able-minded people will be on top of every political party, then if party A rules, the policies would be made according to the needs of the country, and even if party B is ruling, the policy would be made according to the needs of the country, and in the process masses would be engaged in the political process in the country, right? By following this process, all of the masses will be politically active. Everybody will feel ownership, right? So when people will be feeling ownership of that political party, of the political process in the country, of the democratic process in the country, every person would be aware. And if there are party elections every now and then, like for example Election Commission is conducting elections of party A, then it is after getting done with that, then it is conducting elections of party B, and after that party C, party D, party E, party. So there are about 12, 13 major political parties in the country, and election commission will be busy all the time in conducting these internal elections and then a big general election, and people will be busy all the time talking about different issues in the country. Internal competition within the party would create, you know, a very competitive environment for people within the party, and only people on merit, you know, only able people on merit, they will come to the forefront from every party. So then we will expect a real change in a decade or so in Pakistan. Otherwise, without this, we will never be able to experience the change. Those slogans will be there, but then I think we will never be able to experience that change, right? So that is why this internal democracy in the parties, it is very important in my view. Accountability. Now there is a need to create a permanent mechanism for continued accountability within the democratic structures of the state and the parties. So checks and balances should be there within the state and within the parties. Accountability of each and every person who is an office bearer of a party should be there. That person should consider himself or herself under the law, right, not above the law. And that accountability, the process of accountability should be there within the parties. If the process of accountability is not there within the parties, then people, those people who think that they are above the law, the party laws, then they, when they come to power at national level, then they would think that they are above the national laws as well, right? So because this is the kind of attitude. So if this attitude is curbed at the mohalla level, then it would be curbed at the national level. If it is not curbed at the mohalla level, then it will not be curbed at the national level, right? So this kind of a training should be given, and then you just see that people entering a party from mohalla level and rising to the national level, they will have seen all the ups and downs of politics, right? They would be well versed in public debates. They would be well versed in knowledge about the policies, right? In knowledge about different issues of Pakistan, right? And they will be well versed in negotiation. So because this is what they have been doing all over their lives, entering from mohalla, reaching to the top level, to the national level, and then leading the party. Then they will be well versed in all these diplomatic issues and all these areas which a leader is expected to perform well in, right? So basically this accountability and this changes in the structure of the political parties, it will ultimately have a good impact on the politics in Pakistan, on the national politics in Pakistan. Okay, one more important thing is that there is a need to look at the problems of corruption in depth and take steps to root it out, because not only are the politicians corrupt, but the whole of our society is steeped into corruption, right? Now there is a need of that thing, that we need to look into this problem of corruption, right? There are countries in the world which do not forgive corrupt practices, right? So why are we developing this attitude that corruption is fine? We should also develop this attitude that there should be no tolerance for corruption. Believe me, if we develop this attitude right from this class, right, you know, like if all of you develop this attitude, and if the whole society develop this attitude, these corrupt practices would stop within a year, right? But if the whole society pose a serious challenge to corrupt practices. If you see your politician, your leader is corrupt, then you just raise your voice. If you see that a public office bearer is corrupt, then raise your voices against it, right? Report that thing to the National Accountability Bureau or the Public Ombudsman's Office and this and that, and then you see that everything will be resolved. If you are raising your voices, then these things will be resolved, right? But mechanisms should also be refined. There are mechanisms available, but these mechanisms, the existing mechanisms should be refined and new should be introduced. More active mechanisms, more proactive mechanisms should be introduced to have a check and balance system in these parties and arrest the growth of corruption in Pakistan, right? Because corruption right from top, like from the highest office bearer in Pakistan till the lowest office bearer in the country, everybody is this way or that way kind of corrupt, right? And then people in general in the society, now they have started giving respect to corrupt elements in the society. They would just look towards a corrupt person and they would say how lucky he is. He is earning like more than 200,000 rupees per day, though his salary is 50,000 per day, but he is on such a position that which allows him to make 200,000 rupees per day. So rather than considering that thing bad, right, the general masses have developed an attitude which admire that corrupt person, right? They have started admiring that corruption now. They will think that they would think of that person very high. They would not think of that person something detrimental to the very health of the society, right? The health of the economy. They would not think of corrupt practices in these terms anymore. Now people in our society, they think of corruption something a good quality, and they would say that corruption is done only by intelligent minds. A duffer mind cannot make money, because a duffer-minded person or a slow-minded person, though he is not a duffer-minded, he is not a slow-minded, he's just an honest person. But honesty is being dubbed as stupidity now in the society. This is the level of corruption in the Pakistani society at this particular point of time, right? This is the level of corruption, that honesty is equated with stupidity, right? So this is because of the corrupt practices of our leaders in the past few decades. So the new generation is growing up with this corruption, and they think that this is something normal, which is not, right? So basically, strong mechanisms should be implemented. Checks and balances should be there at the party level. Each and every office bearer should be monitored closely by the party itself, and then corruption should be probed in depth, and the causes of corruption should be eliminated from the society, and only political parties, democratic political parties, which would have got these strong mechanism, right, and continued accountability, only these democratic parties, when the parties would be democratized and when they would be made accountable to the public, only these democratic and accountable parties, political parties, would be able to perform this task, right? Otherwise, this task would never be performed, and we might not be able to see a progressive country in our lifetime. We will see, definitely. People will see that Pakistan will progress because realization is there, awareness is there, right? But maybe that would come after, like, let's say 50 years, 60 years. We never know. So then we would not be able to experience a democratic, economically vibrant, self-sufficient Pakistan, right? Like a welfare state, like welfare states in the West. We will not be able to see it if corruption is not arrested, if parties are not made democratized, right? If internal democracy and accountability in the parties are not are ignored as they have been ignored up till date, right? So if they are ignored in future, then it will take a lot of time, right? So it should not be ignored in future. Then financial resources. Again, a very important thing, right? We have been talking about corruption. So financial resources, parties are weak because they lack financial resources. Parties do not have financial resources. Electoral candidates, as I have been explaining, are relatively strong and not dependent on their respective parties for funding. So that is why parties are normally hijacked by these strong individuals, right, or group of individuals. Parties are hijacked by these strong individuals, right, like these landlords, these business tycoons, and so parties are hijacked by them because they can fund the parties. So if they can fund the parties, the whole parties would serve their own interest. The parties would not have their independent stance against individuals or group of individuals. So, and this is because of the lack of resources. Now what is needed to be done? Unless parties in Pakistan engage themselves in fundraising activities, where do we see these fundraising activities by the parties? Nowhere, right? So if the parties engage themselves in the fundraising activities and thereby finance their electoral and non-electoral activities like political education and training, they will continue, unless and until they do this. They will continue to woo local influence for support rather than lend their support to promising individuals within their folds. Now this is very important. This is very important. Parties are basically hijacked by strong individuals, rich individuals, because parties lack funding. So when parties lack funding, these individuals offer these fundings to the parties for the parties' programs. When they offer these fundings, they hijack the parties, and the parties start serving the interest of these individuals rather than the interest of the masses in general. This is very alarming, right? So parties should also start activities for fundraising, right? By resorting to mass contacts and approaching different organizations, approaching the masses and asking them for the money, because the parties are ultimately serving the masses, not the elites which are part of the party. So if that happens, then what would happen? That the influence of the parties, the influence of the strong elites in the party would be minimized, and then parties would be able to give chances to the individuals which are already in the folds of the parties. Then parties would not be dependent on the electables, I would say, right? Now parties are normally dependent on the electables, and who are those electables? These electables are notables of their own areas, and they are rich, either landlords or business tycoons. These are rich elites. So whenever this rich elite join a party, then that party wins the election, right? Because of the influence of that rich elite, and they are funding all the activities of the party. So if these rich elites are funding all the activities of the party, then they are hijacking the parties for their own interest, right? They are not giving this money in charity. There is always some motive behind giving money to a political party, right? So if these political parties start fundraising activities, then the old workers in all political parties, the able worker, the workers who are on merit, they will get enough opportunity. Parties will get parties will be in a better position to offer opportunities to their ideological followers, their ideological supporters and workers. Otherwise, parties would be dependent on the electables, on the notables, and these electables and these notables, they are few in number, and they will be hijacking all political parties in Pakistan. What to talk about Pakistan People's Party, Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, MMA previously, and Jamaat-e-Islami, JUIF, and Awami National Party, and Balochistan National Party, and what to talk about, all political parties, they would be hijacked by this clique, this elite, this rich elite, because parties need funding, and fundraising activities are not there by these parties. Adequate fundraising activities are not there, right? So this is also very important. And then a culture of political donation, which is not there in Pakistan, should also be promoted in the country, right? So political donation, what is political donation? Political donation is kind of donating some money to a party, and this money can be let's say from 1,000 or 100 rupees up till 1,000,000 rupees, right? But this political donation, the culture of political donation, should be initiated by the political parties if they want to survive, if they want to serve the interest of the public rather than the interest of an elite, right? So this thing should be done. Then mass contacts. Another way forward is that mass contact. Parties, above all, political parties have to draw their strength from the citizens for sustainable democracy, right? So instead of looking for behind the scene intrigues to grab power. So if they are looking to the citizens for sustainable democracy, they should reach out to the citizens. I have been already explaining this point during the previous classes, that lack of mass contact is there. So if these parties are reaching out to the citizens, then these parties will be in a better position to impress upon the public that they need funding, and that this is their agenda, and they will serve their purpose once they are in power, and now they need money. If the people are giving them money, then the party will serve their interest. If the people are not giving them money, then the party will still try to get money, but then a landlord or an industrialist will come to help out the party during its rainy days, and then the party would serve the interest of that landlord or those landlords or that industrialist or those industrialists who would have given money to the party during the rainy days, right? So mass contact is required for that as well. The extended role of intelligence networks in the making and breaking of political parties could only be frustrated when citizens are made capable, right? We see that every now and then a political party is either broken or it is made, right? So if citizens are capable of to vanguard their political rights through legitimate political institutions, that is the political parties, then this practice, the making and breaking of political parties by the intelligence networks, either national or international, right? So that would stop, that practice would stop. But if citizens are capable of doing that, right, if parties are dependent, then what would happen? These intelligence agencies, they might extend money to the parties and to ask them to serve their purpose. They might, but if general public is giving money to the parties, then the parties will be serving the interest of the general public. But general public is not doing, and the general public is not doing because the political parties are not reaching out to the general public as well, because this is a rigorous path. It is a time-taking practice, and these leaders do not find time with them. They are involved in other activities. They are corrupt, right? So basically, democracy will eliminate corruption from political parties and genuine leadership among all parties will come to the forefront, and then the mass context, and then the people will pour in the money. So it's a long process. It's a long process. But it's very important. We cannot deny the importance of this process. We have discussed almost all possible aspects of political system in Pakistan, then political parties in Pakistan, what is the nature of political parties in Pakistan, what were the hurdles for these political parties in Pakistan, why the concept of viable political parties and democratic political parties in Pakistan could not flourish, right? We have explained almost all possible aspects which I could think of. We have just explained. If you have got something more to discuss, we can discuss those aspects during the presentation segments of this course. So we will discuss that, but I hope that it would have been of some help for you to understand the structure of political parties and the problems of these political parties and how to mend these problems and how to mend the structure of political parties. Thank you. See you in the next class.